What is up, everyone, and welcome to some more F1 25 My Team Career Mode. Last time out, we were at the Australian Grand Prix. If you haven't seen that video yet, go and check it out. It was a very interesting race, and things didn't quite go according to the plan, but I still think we had a fairly successful race, all things considered. This time around, we are going to be at the Shanghai International Circuit, and as you can see, as I'm looking at the tyre allocation here, it is going to be a sprint weekend, so we are going to need to think very hard about what we're doing in terms of tyre allocation, and I'm going to go with the balanced tyre allocation on this one, and we will see if that is going to work out for us. Now, last time our tyre allocation didn't work properly, so I'm hoping it will this time. I'm assuming that this means I'm going to be on balanced, because last time it gave me medium or balanced tyre allocation, even though I asked for the harder tyre allocation. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, I'm going to go with the balanced tyre allocation on this one. I think that is going to be the correct course of action, and we will see how things go on that as we now get into the race weekend. And last weekend we raced as Zach O'Sullivan, so this time around I think we are going to race as Paul Aron. I know that he's the better of the two drivers, but I think we need to, at least at the beginning, spread them around equally. Maybe as time goes on, I'll go for the one that's maybe doing a little bit worse in the championship, or if I think one's got a much better shot of getting to the championship, maybe we'll commit a bit more to driving as that one. But at the start of the season, I think we should just be alternating between the two of them as and when we can. So Paul Aron is going to be our driver this weekend. Right then, here we are in the workstation, and as you may remember from last race, we did decide that we were going to keep the difficulty the same, just based on everything that happened in the previous race. So we're going to be sticking on 100 difficulty for this one. We'll see how we go. It looks like it is going to be basically a fully dry weekend except for practice. We'll see what they say. No upgrades, that's fine. Don't really need to worry about the weekend preview. And yeah, you can see here, sprint is going to be dry, quali is going to be dry, race is looking like it's going to be dry. I guess possible chance of rain right at the very end of the race. I'm not going to worry too much about that, and we'll just see how things shake out as the race goes on. And unless anything particularly interesting happens in practice, I will report back at the start of sprint qualifying, and we will see how things go when we get into that session. Well, it was a pretty solid practice session, I would say. I did finish P1, but once again, I think maybe not completely representative, just for the simple fact that we did lots of laps very early on in the session, and then of course that rain came along, which stopped any drivers from going faster. I really sincerely doubt it would have been the fastest lap of the session had we had a full session of dry running. So we've got our track preview from Mark here, just saying about all the different corners to worry about, not too concerned with that. And now it is time for us to get into the first of two qualifying sessions this weekend as we prepare ourselves for sprint qualifying. Alright, so here we are on our first flying lap of SQ1, and in fact my only flying lap of SQ1. I figured since you only get one set of tyres for each run in sprint qualifying, it doesn't make a great deal of sense to do more than one run, especially with the slightly shorter session times. So it was really a one-shot to see if I could get myself into SQ2 and maybe even SQ3 beyond that as well. But as you can see, we are doing pretty well. We actually had a purple first sector. Sometimes the purple sectors in this game can be misleading, but either way, I wasn't overly concerned about my chances of making it out of sprint qualifying. And you can see here, as we come to the line, it is a 1:34.4, and that time is going to be good enough to see us through in first. So pretty happy with that one, and we'll see how we do in SQ2. Well, I have to say, I was not expecting this whatsoever. I did a 1:37.2 as my fastest lap in practice, and that was on a set of soft compound tyres. So to go 2.8 seconds faster than that on a set of mediums was very, very unexpected. P1 in the first session of sprint qualifying, and then your drivers eliminated were Hajar, Lawson, Alonso Ocon, Colapinto, and Zach O'Sullivan. So nobody particularly surprising. 4.2 seconds the differential to my teammate this time, nearly 4.3. This game might be a little bit too easy. I don't know. But in any case, we'll see if we can continue this this strong performance into SQ2 and 3. And here we are in SQ2, once again showing you the end of my final and only flying lap from the session. And once again, we're doing pretty well. Purple first sector, green in the middle sector, as you would expect, because it's my first flying lap. And again, once I saw that I was P1 in the previous session, I was feeling pretty good about my chances of making it through to SQ3 unless something quite dramatic happened. And as we cross the line, it's a 1:34.5 this time, so ever so slightly slower than SQ1, but still very comfortably through in P1. So really, really strong so far. What can we do in SQ3? Well, it was a slightly worse time, actually, this time. We just snuck into the 1:34.5s, but it was still more than good enough to finish on top and get ourselves into the top 10, where we can now fight for the sprint pole. Drivers knocked out here were Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, George Russell, surprisingly, Hulkenberg, Sainz and Behrman. So a few drivers that perhaps a little bit unexpected once again making it through into SQ3. Pierre Gasly for the second time. Maybe we need to stop saying that that's particularly surprising. And then Gabriel Bortoleto also making it through. And we will see now if we can fight for sprint pole in SQ3. So once again, I only did one lap in SQ3, and this time on the soft compound tyres, you get mediums for SQ1 and SQ2, but in SQ3 they finally let you off the leash on the soft tyres, so you would expect to see a little bit of a better time here. And to be honest, when I saw the times that the AI was doing before I went out, I didn't really anticipate that there was going to be much of a shot at sprint pole here. I didn't think I was going to improve by loads compared to my medium times. We crossed the line and do a 1:33.9, and to my surprise, that actually was good enough for sprint pole. So yeah, a little bit of a shock, but very happy with that, and we'll see what we can do in the sprint.
And that's it for sprint qualifying. Plenty more coming up over the rest of the weekend, so we'll see you all tomorrow.
Well, I have to say, I was wondering, especially after SQ1 and SQ2, if this was going to happen, and indeed it has. We are going to be starting on not only the front row of the grid, but in sprint pole position for 19 laps around the Shanghai circuit. I am not sure whether we'll be able to hold on to the win, but certainly it is something to be pretty happy with. We are going to be joined on the front row by Lando Norris, and then behind us is going to be Verstappen, Leclerc, and Piastri, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Antonelli, and Bortoleto and Gasly will round out the top 10. So, will we be able to hold on and grab our, I was going to say first points this season. I mean, that's looking pretty likely when you consider that we would have to lose 7 positions over the course of 19 laps for that to happen. But will we be able to hold on to victory in the sprint, or will we end up plummeting down the field a little bit like we did in Australia? Let's find out now as we get into the sprint.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before we head into the braking zone of turn 14. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Paul Aron lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri and Hamilton, Tsunoda, Antonelli, Bortoleto and Pierre Gasly, Albon, Stroll, George Russell and Hulkenberg, Sainz, Behrman, Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Colapinto and Zach O'Sullivan rounds off the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. And alongside me, a man, well, what more can I say? But he's a legend, Anthony Davidson. Well, Ant, we love this 11th team on the grid. They've certainly made an impact since they came into the sport. But without one person at the helm, I don't think we'd have seen what we've seen so far. Their team principle really is a character.
And you need these characters in Formula 1, Croft. You need them as a driver. You want to have full trust in the person leading your team forward, that your feelings inside the car and about the team are going to be relayed and understood in the right way, and positive changes made.
Right then, so here we are on the grid getting ready, and I agree with the default strategy, even though it's looking like it's only going to be fractionally faster for us than the alternate strategy because of my increased tyre wear compared to what the game projects. But yeah, I do wholeheartedly agree on this one, that it is going to be mediums to the end. The softs I just don't think would make it, and I think the mediums would just be better over the course of the race as well. I'd be very surprised to see anyone on softs at any point during this race. As for the fuel load, I think I'm just going to keep this exactly as it is. I thought about maybe messing around with it a little bit, but I think we'll just leave it where it is because as you know, I do burn a little bit more fuel than typically the game would expect me to as well. So I think we'll leave that. We're plus 1 lap on fuel. I think that should be good enough to see us to the end. And now I will let my commentary self take over to guide you through the sprint race. So, formation lap time, we are going to be leading away on the formation lap, of course. And, I mean, how contrived would it have to be if we managed to pick up a sprint win? Even a sprint win would be a little bit incredible, all things considered, given that we're supposed to be the worst car on the grid. At this point, I'm genuinely questioning, like, even if I turned the difficulty all the way up to 110, would I just still be bossing it every single race? I don't think so, because I think the difficulty doesn't increase in a linear fashion beyond 100, but either way, it was definitely a consideration of mine. But either way, we'll just have to see what we can do and if we are able to fight for the sprint win today or not, as we get ready to go now, as the lights come on and the lights go out. And it's been a pretty solid getaway from us, as you would expect. Generally, the starts on this game, you can be a little bit stronger compared to the AI. That said, Verstappen looks like he had a very good start. He's already up into P2, and we are going to lead away in P1 quite comfortably from the looks of things. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen battling away behind by the looks of things. Norris has now got back ahead. Verstappen swaps back ahead, and before I know it, I'm going to be over a second in front of the cars behind, and that's the point where you can really start to believe that a sprint win could actually be possible in the 19 laps of the Shanghai International Circuit here. And once again, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, more battling going on behind us. 1.4 seconds now is the gap to the car behind. So all this battling going on behind between these two championship rivals of years gone by, that is really helping out my race, where I'm kind of in a position that I have absolutely no business being, and I'm going to be able to extend that advantage a little bit. And if I can look after the tyres a little bit better than I was able to in Australia, then we could actually be on for a really, really strong result here today. So all I have to do is just keep holding on, try not to overcomplicate things too much, use the battery effectively, but don't drain it to the point where I'm completely out of it, because you would still expect the cars behind to catch me. While qualifying certainly is a little bit overpowered, in the race things are a little bit more normal. I think the car's certainly more powerful than it should be in the race, but I mean, look at that, the gap behind now 1.8 seconds because of all this battling. So this is going to give us a chance to break away at least a little bit. We have got a track limits warning there, and we do need to be careful, but almost a 2-second advantage. That's going to give us at least a little bit of breathing room in this race to enjoy leading our first ever laps in Formula 1. And in fact, as we make our way onto lap 4, you can see that the gap just kept increasing. Lando Norris is now 4 seconds behind us. Max Verstappen only 2 seconds. So I do still think that he will probably catch us at some point during this race. And as we go through lap 4 now, you can see that the gap is starting to come down just by a few tenths, but a few tenths per lap is all Max Verstappen is going to need in order to claim victory in this one. So over the course of the lap, it looks like the gap has come down by about, what would you say, maybe 2 or 3 tenths there. Not a massive amount, but still more than enough for Max Verstappen to start thinking about getting back into my DRS range, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he is right knocking on the door with us in the next couple of laps. And you can see by the time we make our way onto lap number 7, he is back in that DRS range. Piastri not too far behind him, and as we make our way down the very long back straight of the Shanghai International Circuit, Max Verstappen has made his way up into P1, overtaken us, and I wouldn't be too surprised if that's the last we see of him now. It seems like maybe my tyres starting to go off a little bit. 23% on the front left. I imagine his tyres are not wearing out at quite as fast a rate as mine are. That's just the nature of this year's game, especially when you're a controller player like I am. You do tend to just wear out your tyres a little bit more than the AI and also other human drivers on a racing wheel as well. But that said, lap 12, we were staying right with him in actual fact, so only a few tenths was the gap between myself and Max Verstappen at this point. So I was still wondering whether we would be able to make the move. You can see I briefly looked at potentially going for a move there to no avail, and as we speed through this lap, you can just see that the problem is, in Sector 2 especially, I'm just falling off the back of him a little bit, and that means even when I have the DRS going into that back straight, I'm just nowhere near close enough to really think about going for a move. Like there I did have the DRS, but at the end of the DRS zone I was still about a second off of him. So this DRS is really all it's doing is flattering my position a little bit by allowing me to stay with Verstappen rather than highlighting any kind of pace that I might have over him. And so what that meant was by the time lap 14 came around, eventually I didn't have the DRS, and that is going to leave me susceptible to the McLarens and Hamilton behind as well. Lando Norris making the position into the hairpin at the end of the lap, and now we have fallen down to P3, but we're right with him. And of course there are 2 detection points on this track, so that does mean that we're going to get the DRS down the pit straight now, and there is still potentially an opportunity for us to get back ahead of Lando Norris as we move to the outside. It will give us a nice run through the first couple of corners, and by the time we get there we are just about in front of him and back into P2 in this race with just a few laps left to go. So still an opportunity potentially for us to take a P2 here. I think Verstappen is probably out of reach at this point, and as we make our way onto the back straight, you can see the front left is now struggling quite a bit. We'll definitely make it to the end of this race. I wasn't concerned about that, but looks like Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton both are going to go for a move, and we might even go 3 wide potentially. So I just thought, you know what, back out of it a little bit. I was going to try and go for the undercut, but Hamilton had the same idea, and suddenly that's put me in a bit of a sandwich. I'm going to just back out of that one a little bit, try and go for the undercut again, and this time it actually has worked. The little switchback that we saw there, they just kind of pushed each other wide, and that has allowed me to move back into P2, although that might only be a temporary thing because Lando Norris, with that superior tyre grip, is holding on up the inside through turns 1 and 2, and I don't know if we're quite going to be able to hold on to this one. That said, we do have the inside line for the next corner, and that is going to actually allow us to just stay ahead of Lando Norris for this one. Lap 17, this is Max Verstappen's teammate, Yuki Tsunoda. He wasn't really running in any kind of competitive position, but that will be the first retirement and only retirement of the sprint there for Yuki Tsunoda, and now we just have a couple more laps left in this race. Lewis Hamilton making his way up into P2, and Charles Leclerc looking like he wants to come through as well. Lando Norris has fallen off a little bit now. I think he just pushed maybe a little bit too hard a little bit earlier, but as it stands, Lewis Hamilton will be taking P2 unless we can do anything to get back ahead of him here. But you can see I just had a little bit of a wobble going through the final corner there, and that is going to not only stop me from getting back past Hamilton, but put me under pressure from his teammate Charles Leclerc, who's going to try and go around the outside of me through the first couple of corners. And you can see 53% on that front left tyre. I don't have a lot to fight with now. It's going to allow Leclerc to stay fully locked into this battle through these first 3 or 4 corners, and when he had the inside line there, you can see that he was just able to break away. So we make our way onto lap 19 now, and it's looking like we probably are going to have to settle for P4. You would expect that through Sector 2, I am going to start to fall away from these Ferraris, especially with the tyre wear that we're experiencing in this race, up to 54% on that front left now, and you'd probably imagine that we're going to gain another % or 2 through these last few corners. As we make our way onto the back straight, 8 tenths is the gap to Leclerc. Obviously, he's got DRS to his teammate in front as well, which means that there is not really much opportunity, especially with my limited battery, for us to really do anything into the final few corners. And as much as it would have been nice to take a podium here in the sprint today, it just isn't quite going to happen for us. But I will be more than happy to take home a solid result. Having started on sprint pole, we're going to round the final corner and take the run to the checkered flag, cross the line to take a hard-fought, well-deserved P4, and that is going to be 5 points. Really, really crucial for our battling with the smaller teams later on in the season. George Russell picking up driver of the day for the sprint in this race.
So that wraps up the sprint race, but there's still more action yet to come this weekend. We've got qualifying and, of course, the Grand Prix.
Well, despite the fact that we couldn't quite hold on to the podium in the end, I would still argue that that was a very, very successful sprint race for us. We've actually hit our points target for the season already, and it's not even the end of race weekend 2, which is awesome. 5 points picked up there. Obviously, it was disappointing to lose out to the 2 Ferraris on the final lap, but I was pretty happy with that in the end. It is Verstappen who takes home the win, followed by the 2 Ferraris of Hamilton and then Leclerc, and then it was ourselves, Piastri, Norris, Russell and Antonelli rounding out the point scorers. O'Sullivan ended up P21, inheriting that off of the back of Yuki Tsunoda's DNF. We still have an entire qualifying session and race to go though, so things are far from over here, and I will see you guys for qualifying. And just as quick as we finish the race, we are back in qualifying for the proper race this time. Obviously last time was the sprint, and our first flying lap, fresh set of soft compound tyres, only good enough for P3 in fact. We did a 1:35.2. I did have to mess around with a few settings, because between the sprint and this qualifying I actually upped the difficulty to 101, but when I did that I accidentally reset a lot of my assist settings. So when I started my first flying lap, I had brake assist, steering assist, everything on by accident. So I had to mess around with that a little bit, and you may notice a few hiccups, shall we say, throughout the rest of the video in relation to that will be fixed for next race. But we crossed the line, we improved by 5/10 on another fresh set of soft compound tyres, and that was good enough to put us P1 and send us through to Q2. Well, it was a little bit tighter this time, but we still did get P1 in Q1. Kind of a bit of a surprising top 10 here, really, when you look at all the people in here. Both Williams in here, the Hulkenberg, sorry, the Sauber of Hulkenberg, I should say, Alonso in the Aston Martin, the V-Carb of Lawson. Like, there were actually very few top drivers in the top 10 there. Only really Leclerc, Verstappen, and Antonelli in the top 10. And I don't know if there'll be any surprise knockouts here. I mean, I guess yes would be the answer. Bortoletto in P17 there, not really too much of a surprise. O'Sullivan doing well in P18. Tsunoda, definitely the surprise knockout there, P19. And I imagine he'll be starting right at the back with a grid penalty because of his mechanical failure in the race as well. And then we've got Colapinto, Ocon and Hadjar rounding out the bottom 6. But yeah, a real shock qualifying there in terms of the order. So we'll see if things can restore to a bit more normalcy in Q2. And here we are in Q2, out on my first flying lap, this time on a set of used soft compound tyres, of course. So we wouldn't be expecting this to be the most impressive run I'd ever done. And it was a 1:35.3 in the end, not terrible, but only good enough for P6 on this occasion. So we will be looking to find a little bit of improvement in our next run, despite the fact that we do appear to be staying P6, even though other people have done more runs since nobody could overtake us. So we would have been safe, but I decided to go for another run anyway, just to kind of see what time I would have been capable of doing. And you can see the improvement here, nearly 1.2 seconds already. I think that's a slightly colder day than it was when we did the sprint qualifying, because the times don't seem to be quite as low, but we crossed the line. It's a 1:34.1. and that is good enough to see us through to Q3 in P1. Really strong performance so far. Well, that was a bit more like what we're capable of. I was not really feeling it super well in Q1. Kind of struggled to unlock my full potential. I feel like we have done exactly that here in Q2. And once again, you can see that there are some big surprises here. Fernando Alonso, who got knocked out in SQ1, has made it through to Q3, along with his teammate Lance Stroll. the V-Carb of Lawson and the Sauber of Hulkenberg all making it through, and that means we're going to see some surprising names in the drop zone here. Pierre Gasly, who has ended his 100% Q3 streak, knocked out in P11. Hamilton, Sainz, Antonelli, Behrman, and Albon knocked out there. So Hamilton and Antonelli really the big names there getting knocked out. Obviously Tsunoda was already knocked out, which means of the top 4 teams, we're only seeing 5 of those drivers coming through. Leclerc, the 2 McLarens, Russell and Verstappen making it through, which means that we are going to get a non-top 4 team in P6 at least. And I mean, with the pace that we've been showing, you would imagine that we are going to maybe get amongst the top 5 a little bit there as well. But obviously, we will see how things shake out as we now get into Q3. All right, then, this is the big one. And first of all, we are going to be going on a banker lap on a used set of soft compound tyres. These are my Q2 tyres. And again, you wouldn't expect any massive surprises with that 135.1. We weren't the slowest driver, but we certainly weren't the fastest, only P6 for now, so we'll see if we can find much improvement. Russell's bumped us down to P7. Looks like Hulkenberg has done a very good lap time here from what I'm seeing, and we are currently 6/10 up as we come into the final few corners. But remember, on a used set of soft compound tyres, this is the part where you can really make up a lot of time compared to when you're on a set of fresh soft compound tyres. The fresh ones are obviously going to be significantly faster through the last few corners because the used ones will have taken a lot of pain by that point. So we crossed the line, it's a 134.3, and that is not going to be good enough for pole positions. The first time we haven't been P1 in any of these sessions, we are P3. Well, when it came down to it, we just couldn't quite do it, unfortunately. 2 drivers in the 133s, we were not one of them. Max Verstappen takes a pole position. Oscar Piastri will be joining him on the front row, but we will be lining up in P3 alongside the Sauber of Nico Hulkenberg. What an outrageous qualifying from him. In the next row, it will be Leclerc and Norris. Alonso and Russell will round out row 4, and then Lance Stroll and Lawson make up the top 10 for tomorrow's race. And we are finally at that time. I've already been recording for nearly 2 hours. Now, granted, I did have to take a short break to quickly sell some furniture. By the way, if anyone wants a bedside cabinet, feel free to comment down below. And other than that, I don't have a great deal more to talk about. I just hope that we can hold on to some points in tomorrow's race to have a double point scoring weekend for ourselves. And I will see you guys now in the race.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai. Northwest of the thriving city of over 24 million people is a circuit that first featured in the championship calendar back in 2004. It played host to Formula One's 1000th Grand Prix back in 2019. Shanghai International Circuit then is a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests the driver's patience. The flats, open to the elements location, test their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and they're available into turn 1 and down the kilometre-long back straight into turn 14. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and Paul Aron completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hulkenberg, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, and Russell, Stroll, Lawson, Verstappen, and Lando Norris, Hamilton, Sainz, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and Behrman, Albon, Bortoleto, Zach O'Sullivan, and Franco Colapinto, Ocon, Gasly, Hadjar, and Yuki Tsunoda rounds off the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. And let's talk momentum with this driver. What a sprint it was. They start at 0 once again for today, but with a huge amount of confidence, surely. Now, we had great fun watching them win last time out. What a great victory it was. but can they carry that into today's race?
It's the important one, isn't it, Crofty? You've done it once, can you do it again? But, you know, if you start believing in yourself and the confidence starts to build, that inner confidence is what you need. And you can carry that through to future races, including this one, and you set that ball rolling. That's the critical thing that they're looking for here. And I believe if you've got that first race win or a win at any stage, it can start to roll with you in a good way.
Right, well, the strategy is going to be interesting here because obviously it's a sprint weekend, so we have limited tyres. I don't know if we can reuse our tyres from sprint qualifying or not. I guess we're about to find out. Because ideally, the strategy I would like to do is a medium hard, but it's not looking like I'm going to be able to... It's not letting me change my tyres at all, so I've literally just got the 3 sets. So I think we are, unfortunately, going to have to use the tyres that it's given us. I don't think the softs will be able to do any more than 10 laps, so that's fine. We will leave those as is. However, I am going to do one less lap on the mediums, I think. And maybe do an extra lap on the hards. Because I don't think that the mediums will go much longer than we took them in the sprint, maybe just the 1 lap. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. The 2-stop I definitely think is going to be the strategy today. I don't think a 1-stop is feasible around here, no matter whether we're doing personalised or projected. I mean, the projected does actually say a 1-stop, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So I'm definitely going to go with the personalised strategy, and it's saying the same thing here as well. So yeah, we'll go with this 20 laps on the mediums, 26 laps on the hards, and 10 laps on the softs. And this gives us a little bit of leeway as well in the event that there is a safety car. If there's a safety car sort of between lap 10 and 20, then we could definitely box onto those hards a little bit early, but I don't think the hards are going to last much longer than around 30 laps or so, so we don't want to take them too early in the race. And then yeah, I think the softs should be able to last those 10 laps at the end of the race, where we can just kind of push flat out to try and get that victory. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the strategy as it is, and we'll go with that. As for the fuel, I reckon we could probably, I'm trying to think, I kind of feel like we should underfuel from here a little bit, so I am actually going to do exactly that. I'm gonna underfuel slightly for the race. Worst case scenario, we have to do a little bit of lifting and coasting, but I would be surprised if there wasn't a safety car or something like that. And we did sort of break even on fuel when it came to the sprint. We didn't end up burning too much, so as long as there isn't any rain, which there isn't forecast to be, I think we should be absolutely fine. And with that in mind, I will now once again pass you over to my commentary self for the race. Alright, here we are on the formation lap for the race. We have made it at long last, and we are going to be leading away in P2. Now, I have to admit, there was a small amount of concern that I had when I looked around me and saw that I was the only driver starting on these medium compound tyres. Everybody else around me starting on the hards. That should mean that I'm going to get a pretty good launch and maybe start to drive away from these guys, at least initially. But I am worried about what that's going to mean, especially once my medium tyres start to go off a little bit, whether that means they're going to reel me in a little bit more. Will I actually be able to defend against them? I am not amazingly optimistic, but nonetheless, we'll see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and it was a long hold on the grid, but just as I expected, we have got away nicely from Oscar Piastri off the start. On those hard compound tyres, he was nowhere near the level that we're at, but my tyres freezing cold at the moment. It's very, very difficult to turn into these corners at the beginning, so that might potentially bring the hard compound runners back into play. But as things stand, 8/10 pulled to Piastri already. If we can pull 1 second on him, then we should be able to enjoy a nice period of this race where we're not coming under too much pressure from the cars behind. The other thing to consider is that we need to keep a big eye on the fuel over the first few laps of this race as well, to see what's happening to it, whether it's
increasing, decreasing, or whether it's staying roughly the same. And as long as it's staying roughly the same, I think that should be fine for the beginning. But if I find that I'm running out of fuel at a faster rate than I'm expecting, then we may have to employ some emergency lift and coast measures, possibly. If it's staying the same, then we can probably goal hang for a safety car, and then if we haven't had one by about the midway point of the race, at that point then we'll have to start doing a little bit of lift and coast to make sure that we can get home on the fuel with no real issues. At the moment, we've already pulled 1.5 seconds on Oscar Piastri. Nico Hülkenberg doing a great job of holding up the cars behind him, but Leclerc already breaking through and knocking Nico Hülkenberg out of that podium spot. Of course, Max Verstappen getting that grid penalty means that we were able to find ourselves starting on the front row of the grid, which was a little bit unexpected and has massively helped us in the run to the lead of this race, especially on those medium compound tyres. You can see George Russell in P5 is also starting on his mediums, so we weren't the only ones to start on mediums. But speaking of Max Verstappen with his grid penalty, this is him, and he is out of the race. He is our first retirement, and he was quickly joined one lap later by this man in the Williams. This is Carlos Sainz. So already 4 laps into the race, we have had 2 retirements, and I was quite surprised seeing all of this, that no safety car or anything like that was brought out, not even a virtual safety car for 2 mechanical failures. And when we make it onto lap 7, we did finally get a safety car, and you might have seen it flash up just for a second there. It was for Nico Hülkenberg retiring from the race. So I'm assuming it probably wasn't a mechanical failure for Nico Hülkenberg. So let's see exactly what happened with him as we ride over his shoulder in his Kick Sauber car. Coming through Sector 2, you can see he just gets on the power a little bit too early there and smashes it into a wall, and that takes his front right tyre clean off. So we were able to save pretty much all the fuel that we needed to there. You can see if you look down in the bottom right hand corner, we're now plus 0.5 on fuel. So the safety car has done me a real favour. I decided to trundle really slowly along the back straight and then go a little bit early on the safety car restart. I did end up going off the track there, somehow didn't end up getting a warning for it, but what all of that means with regards to my trundling along the back straight and going earlier than the cars were expecting is that I've already built out the gap that I already had. 1.6 seconds now to Oscar Piastri. We are in a really good spot here. I actually had a bigger gap, so there was a small part of me that was a little bit annoyed at the safety car happening when it did, but there was also an even bigger part of me that was like, well, actually I needed this in order to save the fuel, so I can't be too disappointed with the fact that it's happened, as Leclerc and Piastri battling away behind is going to hold both of them up. But yeah, I needed the safety car, so even though I'd pulled a big gap, it would have come down when I'd had to do my lift and coast measures later on in the race. So at the end of the day, I think it was probably a good thing. But what it does mean is that by the time we get to lap 14, I am now coming under pressure from the hard compound runners, and that includes Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, who has now made his way past us on lap 14. But we will try and stay with him and see if we can attack him again with the DRS in the next DRS zone down the pit straight. That's the nice thing about the DRS zones being close to each other, is that you do have an opportunity to get back past somebody when they pass you on that back straight. So as we move on to lap 15 now, you can see the gap is just a couple of tenths. I don't want to burn too much battery, so you can see that Charles Leclerc has managed to stay ahead of us. But I do like a little diving move up the inside here, and I think I'm going to go for it. Yeah, I actually nudge him out the way a little bit, but I don't know how ethical that move necessarily was. We're doing a little bit of wheel-to-wheel battling, but Charles Leclerc really looked in control of that the whole way through that sequence of events, and I tried to make it look more competitive than it was. Leclerc now defending to the inside, and that's going to cost him a little bit, but still, he's just got the tyre advantage to keep him in front, and even with the DRS now, I am going to be coming under pressure from the cars behind. That includes Oscar Piastri on those hard compound tyres, which we are going to be falling behind as well. We'll see if we can get back past him as we get into lap 17, see if we could do what we couldn't quite do to Leclerc into lap number 15 it was. So a couple laps later, but you can see that Oscar Piastri just gets a little bit of a better exit than we got, and that might just compromise our chances of getting back past the Australian driver as we make our way onto lap number 17. So, lap number 17 we come to the end of now, and you can see that Piastri and Leclerc battling away for the lead, and this could potentially open up a golden opportunity for me to try and get myself back into a race leading position. But Leclerc with the DRS there, you can see he is absolutely lightning fast, but Oscar Piastri without the DRS, we're just going to squeeze out wide. That's not really intentional from me. I'm just really struggling on the tyres at this point. You know, it's only a few laps until my predicted pit stop lap, and I think I am going to come in on that lap. I did think about potentially pivoting from the 2-stop that we had planned into a potential 1-stop around here when the safety car came out, but my front left was just struggling a little bit too much for me to really think about committing to that. So despite the fact that we're going to have the DRS on Charles Leclerc here, you can see that still I'm just struggling so much on these tyres, struggling to keep it on the road, and I think we're going to get repassed by Oscar Piastri even though we have the DRS here. So Oscar Piastri getting back past us, knocking us back down into third, and well, we'll just see if we can try and stay with him, but the tyres are really screaming out for a change at this point. So we're wheel to wheel with Oscar Piastri. Are we going to be able to get back in front of him? Not. Actually, yes, we are. I thought we wouldn't. Exceeding track limits there. I think that's the second time in this race already, so we need to be careful now not to exceed track limits one more time. We are going to get a penalty, but I thought that we weren't going to be able to get back ahead of Oscar Piastri, and indeed, that did turn out to be the case. He's just got a little bit too much in those tyres compared to us. I don't want to spend the whole race talking about tyres, but it is a very, very relevant part of F1 25. You know, it's not something that I've really talked about too much so far in this series, I don't think, but the tyres are a seriously important part of F1 25, especially in league racing, but that doesn't mean that they're not important, especially in a 100% race in career mode as well. George Russell now getting past us. Looks like we're coming under a bit of pressure there from Lewis Hamilton too. He couldn't quite get past us. Now we might have an opportunity to get back past Lewis Hamilton's former teammate into lap number 20. This is of course going to be our pit lap as well. We could have potentially extended the stint a few more laps, but the tyres just struggling a little bit too much. As you can see, we're going wheel to wheel with George Russell through the first couple of corners. Is he going to stick it all the way around the outside of us? We're going to have to leave him a bit of room because we cannot afford to push him off the track, get ourselves a penalty, or worse, maybe even cause ourselves a bit of damage or a spin. So we did have to give George Russell the room there, and in the end that was everything he needed to hold on to the position. But we're going to go for a move again up the inside of George Russell into the heavy downhill braking zone of the hairpin, but George Russell still stays with us, stays wheel to wheel with us, and we are not going to be able to hang it around the outside of him through this section. We just don't have the life in the tyres to be able to fight with the Mercedes here on lap 20. So we are going to concede the position to George Russell and hopefully just stay with him enough to get that DRS into the final sector, that final back straight. Piastri and Leclerc pulling away from us now a little bit, so we do need to be careful that we don't accidentally build too much of a gap, or allow them to build too much of a gap, I should say, out in front, and get away from us and potentially cost us a fight with those guys later on in the race once we get off these tyres. But you can see I've fallen quite far behind George Russell now. The gap came down at one point there to nearly 0.8 of a second. But now Lewis Hamilton is closing in on us as well, and we're going to have to fight pretty hard to hold on to this one, I think. So wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton into the hairpin. I think we're just about going to hold on to this position at the moment, but we have to be careful now because we are going to come into the pit lane. We don't want to crash into the back of George Russell. Just had to do a little bit of a lift there to make sure we didn't do that. And into the pit lane we come for a change of tyres for the first time in this race. And here is another one of those weird little things that you see as a result of my blunder when I was changing the difficulty. And that is that it automatically put immersive pit stops off, changed it to broadcast pit stops, so I was not in control of my pit stop whatsoever. It's something I didn't realise was going to happen. So basically what happened when I was changing the difficulty is I discovered this new feature that I didn't know existed on this year's game called adaptive difficulty, and I played around with that a little bit, but I didn't realise that what that actually meant was like Mario Kart catch-up mechanics. I thought it was like the game changes the difficulty based on how well you do in the race, that kind of thing. But it didn't really seem to be that. As you can see now, we're making our way through a few cars that haven't pitted yet, Colapinto and Albon, among others. So yeah, when I turned that on, it put my game into, like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like casual mode. So it changed a bunch of settings that you can only change when you're in the, like, expert settings mode. So that included pit stops. It put some of my assists back on. Another thing it did, which, look, let's be upfront with each other. I'm a content creator. You guys are the audience. There should maybe be a level of a fourth wall that we sort of keep between us. Another thing it did do was it disabled flashbacks. Now, look, I'm doing a 56 lap race. At some point during that, my concentration is going to break, and I'm gonna go into a situation where I'm accidentally going to make a mistake that I would usually just sort of flashback out of. I'm not the only F1 creator that uses flashbacks. Pretty much all the big ones do it as well, and if you think they don't, I don't really know what to tell you. Sorry to shatter the illusion for those of you that think that F1 creators don't use flashbacks. But in this case, this was actually a flashbackless race because I didn't have a choice. I discover that later, and you will see where it is obvious that I didn't know that until I got into this race. But yeah, it is. We are in auto rejoin track territory rather than rewind territory just for this race. So as we get past Gasly now, up into P9, he is going to maybe try and fight us back a little bit, but we do have the superior tyres over all of these guys. Interestingly, Oscar Piastri onto the softs, so you would expect him to box again in the not too distant future. And as we make our way now up into P8, we're just kind of following Oscar Piastri through all of these cars who are yet to pit. Not really in the fight with any of them, and Stroll defending Oscar Piastri hard to the inside of the hairpin might just allow us to get ourselves involved in this fight a little bit. You can see we get back past Stroll there, and we looked potentially to go around the outside of Oscar Piastri, but we will have the DRS on him now. Only a couple tenths separating us. I think there is an opportunity for us to potentially overtake Piastri, who I believe before he pitted was leading the race. Certainly, given that Charles Leclerc still hasn't come in, you would expect that we would both undercut Charles Leclerc now. So effectively, I think this puts me back in the net lead of the race at the moment. I wouldn't expect to stay here over the course of the entire race, but it certainly is something that I wasn't really expecting. Next driver to clear is going to be Kimi Antonelli, which we're going to attempt to do on the DRS straight here across the pit lane. And I think we're just going to close him down, getting ahead of George Russell, who's now pitted onto a set of hard compound tyres. So I assume that he is probably on a one-stop strategy. He went 26 laps on mediums, now he's on hards. So looking like the one-stop potentially for George Russell. And we get ahead of his teammate Kimi Antonelli into lap 27. And on lap 30 now, we're going to try and clear Behrman, who started on these hard compound tyres and looks like he is going to attempt to do the one stop as well in this race. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc also out in front, yet to pit. They're the only drivers we really need to worry about. Now, I did want to get ahead of Behrman, but I was very, very conscious that despite the fact I had a few opportunities to maybe go for a slightly risky dive bomb or a bit of a bold move where I kind of use my superior hard compound tyres. Remember, Behrman has been on these for 30 laps at this point compared to me just 10. So I definitely did have a tyre advantage over Behrman. But one thing I was really conscious of is I didn't want to give him the DRS into this DRS zone because I felt like that would hold me up more than just tucking in behind him for a little bit. So I did just tuck into Behrman's slipstream for a little bit, but that actually ended up punishing me here when I found that I wasn't really close enough to go for a move. So in the end, I did have to go for a bit of a risky dive bomb, but it paid off in the end. We made our way past Oliver Behrman, and you can see that Lewis Hamilton now has come into the pits. Oh, sorry, Charles Leclerc has come into the pits as well, onto medium compound tyres as Behrman follows him in. So even if I hadn't overtaken Behrman there, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. And we are back in P2, just waiting now for Lewis Hamilton to come into the pit lane and give us the lead of the race once again. Now, if you have been paying attention, you will see that there is something next to my driver's name that wasn't there before, and that is, of course, the 3-second penalty marker. Now you begin to understand what I was talking about with the rewind situation. You've seen my league races where obviously you can't rewind, and I might get the occasional penalty in those. So it's very common over the course of a 100% distance race that you might extend the track maybe 4 or 5 times, something like that. It's something I think that happens to a lot of drivers. And, you know, in that situation where maybe I get that sort of third or fourth corner cut warning, well, I guess third in most situations, I will just kind of, you know, rewind on that, because I you know, there was a few there that I was like, that's not really particularly my fault. I think there was one when I was battling Oscar Piastri where I was like, there wasn't a great deal I could do there, as you saw Isaac Hadjar retiring from the race there. So I just thought to myself, well, you know, I'll try and get rid of that. So the reason I didn't actually show me getting the penalty is because there was just a lot of me fumbling around in the instant replay menu, realizing I couldn't turn or I couldn't rewind, and then trying to figure out if I could turn rewinds back on for the rest of the race, finding out that I couldn't. So yeah, that was just a little bit of a sort of clusterfuck, and I just thought probably best not to show that in the video. But yeah, complete transparency, it was my fault, and I think I do get one more warning, so I would have got a 3-second penalty anyway, even without those Piastri shenanigans. So yeah, it doesn't really make a difference in the end. Charles Leclerc getting past me on the previous lap you saw there, and now Lewis Hamilton making his way through for what is going to be a Ferrari 1-2 here. So yeah, really impressive performance from these guys. And now we're just waiting to sort of see what's going on with the rest of the race. Now, you know that I was scheduled to box on lap 46 for the soft compound tyres, but I was looking at the fact that I'd been on these tyres for, what, 23 laps at this point, 47% on the front left tyre. I was thinking to myself, well, with only 13 laps to go, and I'm averaging about 2%, maybe slightly over 2% per lap, you would expect that I am probably in a position where I actually could make these tyres go to the end. And that's kind of how I was feeling at this point. I felt like the hards would just about make it to the end. Remember, on this year's game, they actually upped the position at which your tyres puncture. It used to be any time after 75% your tyres were at risk of puncture. It's now 80%, so there's just a little bit more leeway for you to push your tyres. And so, yeah, I made the executive decision that I was actually going to convert to a one-stop here, which really surprised me, frankly, especially given all the league racing I've done in the past. It's almost impossible for me to make a one-stop work around basically any track. Lando Norris getting ahead of us eventually there, but yeah, I was really shocked to find that actually I was making this one-stop work. Only 5 laps left to go in this race. It's very unlikely I'm going to pull 16% or more on these hard compound tyres on that front left. So yeah, really surprised with how good the tyre wear actually was on the hard compound tyres. And there's quite a few tracks in this game where the hards are a really nice race tyre to be on as well. They were actually still not feeling too bad, given that I was on 67% tyre wear here. So yeah, really happy with how the tyre wear worked out here. Oscar Piastri getting ahead of me eventually. He would have been able to pass me with the penalty, even if he hadn't overtaken me on track. So now my big priority was keeping George Russell behind just for these last few laps, and trying to make sure that we didn't have that gap fall down to 3 seconds or less. So I could cement P5 on track. That was what I was angling for here. 3 laps to go. He would have to catch me by over 1 second per lap in order to make it work. And you can see as we make our way onto lap 56 that he was maybe catching me by about half a second per lap at this stage, which I was more than happy to just let happen. You know, George Russell, remember, he was also done a one-stop, so his tyres aren't massively better than mine. He boxed a few laps after I did, but not super later than I did, so he only had about a 6 lap tyre advantage over me. And in fact, on this lap it seemed like I was actually getting away from George Russell a little bit potentially. So as we make our way onto the back straight, our fuel has survived thanks to that safety car, our tyres have survived thanks to the fact that the hards were a little bit nicer than we thought we were going to have them, and in the end the 3 second time penalty that I got didn't end up making a difference to the outcome of the race. I would have finished P5 regardless of whether I had this penalty or not. So yeah, it didn't affect my race, but I need to be careful in future races to make sure it doesn't affect us. So as we cross the line, we take P5. I think it's Charles Leclerc that ended up winning the race there, and we can be pretty happy with our performance throughout that race. I don't know if it already told us who driver of the day was. No, it didn't. Yuki Tsunoda gets driver of the day. I think he ended up finishing 7th, and he was knocked out in Q1 if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
To the line, to the checkered flag. It's King Charles today. He wins.
to overcome the difficult circumstances they face throughout this race today, Crofty, it's not easy, and it really shows a lot of maturity, and you can use this, you can draw on this as a driver moving forward and boost your confidence through the rest of the championship.
It's time to bring out the bubbly and spray it around. It's our podium celebrations. And that is a fabulous win and the top step of the podium for Charles Leclerc.
So it is Charles Leclerc taking P1, the Monegasque driver, winning for the first time this season, and it will be Lando Norris in P2 and his teammate, I was going to say his teammate Lewis Hamilton joining in P3, but it's actually Oscar Piastri. I don't know where I got Hamilton P3 from, but that's what I'd written down. So yeah, it's 2 McLarens on the podium, and they're having a pretty strong start to the season, and you would expect them to make a bit of a push for the Constructors' Championship.
After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Wow, what a result. I really have to admit I was very skeptical about whether that strategy would work or not, so I'm very, very glad it did in the end. And even with that 3-second time penalty, we were able to bring it home in P5. It was Charles Leclerc P1, followed by Norris P2 and Piastri in P3, and then the rest of the top 10 was Hamilton in P4, Paul Aron in P5, George Russell P6, Yuki Tsunoda P7, Behrman in P8, Bortoleto in P9, and Esteban Ocon rounds out the top 10 in what looks to be a very good weekend for Haas F1 team as well. I don't know what happened with Behrman at the end. I assume he boxed again, possibly. But yeah, just goes to show sometimes you got to take a little bit of a risk with the strategy, and sometimes it'll pay off for you. You know, we were far from the fastest car on track today, but we managed to utilize the strategy in a way that really worked for us. So let's just double check. Where did O'Sullivan finish in the end? Yeah, P18. Not a great result for him. The only driver to finish a lap down in that race as well. But, you know, he did me a favour towards the end, holding up George Russell, meaning that I held on quite comfortably to that P5 in the end. And, yeah, a really nice weekend for us to hopefully gain some momentum and maybe go into another weekend with a chance to fight for some more points potentially. But for now, I will see you guys back in the garage for a little bit of a debrief and some upgrades to round out the episode. Right, well, I think we can be very, very pleased with that weekend, and we're not the only ones who were pleased with that weekend as well, because if we just check the messages first, we can see that we have some points on the board. So clearly Mathis was happy with that one, and not only that, but our relationship with our title sponsor has grown, and this is a performance comparison. You can see we are still a long way off the cars in front, but we did gain a new sentiment from the fans, which has allowed me to increase the experience I'm gaining in every race. So they said qualifying has been great to watch. Recent results are really positive considering where the car is. That's something I think we can be very happy with. Now let's go and double check in engineering, and we can afford a few more upgrades. So let's see where the car is still. The chassis is probably the weakest part of the car, so we are going to research another part of the chassis. It's looking like it's going to be the rear floor under tray distribution. So, oh, we've already got something researching here. Yeah, we do. Okay, we'll leave that one for now then. I assume we got something going in the durability as well. Yeah, the ICE. All right then, looks like we're going to dip into aero or powertrain for the first time, and it is going to be aero. The floor stiffening strays here are slightly cheaper, so let's start research on those. That'll be ready for Bahrain to start developing. And then powertrain, the pistons have had a bit of a decrease in price as well, so we will do some research into those. And that is going to be everything for now. Let's check where we are with the development as well. Our first plank is going to be ready in 6 days, and our gearbox is going to be ready in 14 days, and then we'll have to set some more of those to develop as well. Let's have a double check with the sponsor, because they said that things have improved, and indeed we've finished another corporate facility improvement as well. What I wanted to look at was our relationship with our title sponsor. So we're now gaining more owner experience as a result of our relationship with our title sponsor, and if we were to improve even further, then we would gain even more owner experience. So let's have a quick look at facility improvements. We're still working on one here for another 4 days, 17 days in personnel, 19 days in corporate. So nothing to worry about with that right now. So let's set some activities to go. We have 9 days until the race weekend. So I think that's looking like a 4 and a 5 here. Let's see. Let's go for engineering personnel and a department focus on... Well, I really want to get the chassis upgrade. So let's go for a department upgrade for the chassis. Let's have a look. What can we do in the engineering? What are we researching at the moment that needs to be done soon? We could go for the aero one, potentially. And then powertrain development. Oh, this is development blitz. Okay, so again, let's go for chassis, I think. Let's really try and hammer out how quickly we can get that chassis on. For personnel, we've got 3s and 4s. So I guess we'll go for 3 3s here. So let's focus on durability, aero, and chassis. And then finally here, what are the options? 2, 4, 6, and 7. So we could do a 2 and a 7, or we could do both 2s and a 4. I think 2 and a 7 makes the most sense. So let's try and discover another sponsor. And then here we can either increase our resource point gain. That sounds really good. Or we can reduce running costs in our facility. And that lasts for the duration of the activity. All right, I think we should go for the Technology Expo then. Let's do that. Yeah, all right. Let's advance some time until our engineering facility improvements finish. Or until an event. Let's have a look what the corporate facility want. Our sponsor proposes collaborating on a limited edition merchandise line featuring their branding. It could generate revenue. The branding might appeal to all fans. Should we proceed? I actually think yes on this one, because we've got those resource points coming in, those extra resource points. I actually think we can afford to do this. So I'm going to accept on that one. And then let's keep advancing. Right then, so we've had our engineering facility completed. So our improved comms development has now had an upgrade. So now let's look at what next we could improve here. So what's the cheapest options? 750, I'm guessing. Quite a few that are 750. Yeah, a lot that are 750. We'll just go from the top. Why not? So on-track instrumentation. We're going to receive more resource points when we complete a practice program. I think resource points are going to be so essential at the stage of the season we're in. So I am going to confirm that upgrade, and then we will move on from there. Continue advancing until we get the plank finished. In fact, it failed.
Sponsor is interested in backing our team.
All right, let's have a look. Filter inform you we've secured a new secondary sponsor, and that is AVAX. Is that what that's called? All right, let's get them on the car then. A little bit of customization. I can't remember. That's the wrong one. I can't remember what the one that we had on the car twice was. Let me double check. Was it the... I can't remember. Oh, it's the A&F one, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I've unlocked a new livery. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to do decals. There we go. So A&F are on the Halo and they're on the side pod, I think. So let's go to the Halo. And let's replace that with AVAX. Hold on, how do I do? Swap. There we go. Alright, I think that looks good. So that is now on the Halo. So now we have another sponsor on the car to get a little bit more income. We need pretty much everything we can get at this stage, so I'm pretty happy with that. And let's go have a look what happened with the plank. Oh, we've had a personnel upgrade as well, but those are things. But I think we've still got some time to wait on that facility improvement. Yeah, 11 days. Yeah, yeah, it was the development I wanted to have a quick look at. So, development failed, plank. How long is it going to take to get it on the car again? It's going to be slightly cheaper, and it's going to take... Oh man, we're not going to get that on in time for Japan after all then. We're going to have to wait till Bahrain to get that upgrade package. We do have another plank that we have to do at some point, and then we've got the 2 floor stiffening straight positioning upgrades to put on there as well. So that means we should have room to do some more chassis research, if I'm not mistaken. Can we afford to is the question. Not at the moment, but tomorrow we will be able to. So we'll progress 1 day. What are they asking me for in research? I'm not sure. Ah, the ICE improved materials finished as well. So we could do a reliability upgrade. And we actually can afford to do the turbo. But I think the chassis is where it's at. So I think it's worth waiting 1 day and then going from there. And then in owner training, we actually have a training point. Awesome. Okay, so what could we improve? Andrew is telling us something. I think either engineering or corporate is going to be the one that we want to go for. I don't think that there's much point doing anything in personnel. Yeah, I know all of this. I'm trying to think where would be the best. I guess engineering again would probably be the place to be, right? I think our cash flow is actually okay at the moment. I think it's resource points that we really want at the moment. Once our cash flow starts drying up, then we can focus a bit more in corporate. But I think for now, we do just want to increase how many resource points we have coming in. So I'm going to go with that one. Right, so now I have a training activity I have to do. I don't think I can fit it in here. So we'll have to wait until after the Japanese Grand Prix in order to schedule that training activity. That is fine. Right, let us progress 1 day.
Hey, Chief. We've got
and our research for the engine has failed, so we'll have to restart that one. No? Oh, it's been delayed. I keep forgetting that it's not a failure anymore, it's a delay. Right, so let us do... Let's do the rear floor under tray distribution. That is going to be researched before Saudi Arabia, but obviously we're going to have to wait to develop that as well. Let's just check on our state of development at the moment. So 7 days left on this one, and 7 days left on that one. So we're going to have a small upgrade package to put on one of the cars when we get to the next race. Facility improvements, has this one finished yet? No, we've got 9 days on that one. So I think we've done pretty much everything we can now for the Japanese Grand Prix, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we find ourselves here on the 3rd of April. We've completed a ton of activities, and hopefully that's going to help us get some more upgrades researched and developed ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So it's only going to be one more weekend where we're going to go with hopefully no upgrades on either car before we can finally start getting the ball rolling on some upgrades. But that is going to be it for this video. I've been recording for over 4 hours at this point, so it's been a bit of a marathon for me to get this one finished. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It would massively help boost who this audience goes, the audience that this video goes out to. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please make sure you do that, and I will see you next time for the Japanese Grand Prix.